All right, guys. Welcome back to another live stream. Hopefully, everyone's doing good. Let me check the settings, make sure audio is working fine and everything. I believe so. So, yeah, I'm just going to check a couple of things. But yeah, I thought I'd come on tonight and hang out for a little bit, talk about a couple things. Yeah. So, hopefully, everyone's doing good. Maybe might have a show Saturday, or most likely we'll be out in the field. So I'm try to go live out there for a little bit. But of course, we will see. Looks like that's good. That looks like that's good. How's it going? How's it going, Jess? I am doing pretty good. A little tired. I almost didn't come on because I was the bed was calling my name, but you know, I wanted to come on. I missed yesterday and stuff. I wanted to jump on even just for a little bit, talk about a couple things. Got a couple clips and stuff. Got shared an interesting video and stuff with you know uh, another hoaxer that's gonna be pretty much gonna come out pretty much proven, and I think it's gonna surprise a lot of people. um, Maybe not, I don't know. I think some people are going to be a little bit surprised, maybe at the shenanigans and stuff of the overall um, hoaxing attempt and stuff. So uh, uh, give it a couple times, and I think the person who is going to produce the video has more stuff he's going to put together and show. That way, it's just not hearsay and stuff, but actually show um, accounts from people and a little bit of testing of some of the evidence and stuff, and it's very interesting and stuff. So. Um, yeah, so I'll just leave it out that I'm sure that will be coming out, and you guys will know. And it's pretty interesting. I heard some comments on another live stream a week or two ago about some people. It seems like people have short memories with others who hoax in the community, and as long as they talk nice and stuff, somehow it erases other people's memories about their previous hoax allegations and stories and discussions that we've actually had on here. um and there's a lot of people that pretty much fall into that tribalism or the hype or the you go on this show, you're going to get views and stuff. And actually talking about Discover Sasquatch, if you guys recognize that name and stuff, on Untold Radio. He actually was a part of the 400, was out there for a couple times. We actually had Randy Harrington come on here, I think a couple different times, actually talk about his experience with Chris Discover Sasquatch and how he was hoaxing. Basically, long story short, his encounter at the 400 of waking up, hearing something breathing and huffing, uh, almost peeing himself. And there was a recorder going like not even 10 feet away from the tent. You know, that is a good. We might have some technical problems. I don't know if the stream cuts out, completely shuts down. I may have to start a new one. I'm not sure if I can jump back into this stream. So But I only plan to go really only to like nine, just a little bit after nine and stuff. I know Steve Coles is going to have a pretty interesting show. If you guys haven't watched the subject matter and stuff, it'll be pretty interesting about the New York baby footage. And so, anyways, when you like discover Sasquatch, for example, you know, he's on Untold, and then if a lot of people who've never, doesn't know about the hoaxing and stuff that Discover Sasquatch did at the 400, you would only know him from being a host on Untold Radio Network and the founder of Discover Sasquatch, although that is now ending, and apparently he is going with a different rebranding and stuff. I'm not sure if that's his idea or not. I have a feeling that it's probably not his idea, but we'll get into that a little bit. Some other discussion. We'll get into discussion about gatekeepers in this community and how the sacred holy cow, holy grail, holy cows of evidence by these gatekeepers, and why some of these evidence by Paul Freeman matter so much that careers in this community are built upon it. And with the shadiness with Paul Freeman and stuff that's come out and some other things, a lot of people have their eggs invested into a couple different baskets that all are strung together on some shady people. But so yeah, I think the community is actually built upon a lot of shadiness, con artist mentality, trying to make a buck. Anytime a person's like, "Oh, I want to make a living off Bigfoot," that should throw some red flags at you. First of all, integrity, to the evidence, to the investigation, to what's actually happening. Instead of, you'll have people making grass balls and throwing them at people sitting 10 feet from them, and then act like a Bigfoot's next to them, and then, come up with the story, and the whole rest of the night is this Bigfoot activity that didn't happen at all. And then it becomes a story, and then, you do write up investigation documents and stuff, and then, it becomes off as another Bigfoot encounter. And it was simply someone messing around with someone else. I think we have a lot of that. Of course, a lot of people are lonely, some mental illness. But honestly, a lot of it is just, it's easy to fool and manipulate people who really want to truly believe the person who is telling the encounter or the people around them. It's very important to have, if you're out in the field with someone, to make sure that they have integrity and they're a professional. They're not going to whimsically make up something on the spot, or pick up a rock and throw it and say a Bigfoot did it, or make some grass balls and throw it at people and say a Bigfoot's there, then it's on the thermal way over there. Of course, you're the only one on the thermal using it. So, yeah, Northman's Keep. It's been a while. It has been a while. We should get out in the field, go look for some little people and stuff, or some Bigfoot out in your neck of woods and stuff. I hear a lot of ice damage and stuff, so it'd be very actually awesome to get up there. So when you have people who really want to believe, you have people who want to be in the spotlight, and sometimes this doesn't always appear, on live shows, or people don't create and start to. Not everyone creates a show and starts being in the spotlight like that. But when you're at a camp and you're in an investigation, and you have people, plans, we're going to go out, drive 20 minutes this way to go in this spot, and we're going to look for a couple hours. You might have some individuals who stay at camp for whatever reason. a number of reasons. But all of a sudden, they start crying wolf or crying Bigfoot at camp. Oh my God. They ring us up or they text Bigfoot activity. There's something going on. Come back to camp. Oh my gosh, something, it's going crazy. It's going off, whatever it is. And then you get back to camp and there's nothing going on. You go walk around, there's no footprints. There's nothing thrown. And it wastes the investigation and it actually steers the whole investigation into this fantasy narrative of nothing's happening. So you're just walking around in circles and stuff. And I think a lot of that happens because whatever reason, people are people. And, there's a lot of bad personalities that can manipulate a group of people out in the woods very easily by crying Bigfoot, crying wolf. There's nothing out there. I've experienced that. I think that happens a lot. You will have a guide, right? The professional Bigfoot researcher is guiding a group of people who are novice in the woods or novice to Bigfoot activity, and any little spooky thing that happens can be credited to possible Bigfoot activity. And then everyone has a Bigfoot experience. You write it up, send it to the BFRO or put it on the Bigfoot mapping project, and it gets stamped and put on there and passed off as legitimate, even though the sounds of nature were real, but the Bigfoot activity itself was not. You have narratives, you have agendas, you people want to get, they want to be the expert. I know a lot of people say, we'll get into that in a second. Actually, that's a different point. A lot of people want to be that person who is getting the evidence or getting this or knows or can guide you, or is the teacher, right? Let's just say that the teacher who can teach you things and stuff and show you things. If you have someone who just, there's nothing going on, what is he supposed to be showing you and teaching you? And every experience is Bigfoot. It's easy to manipulate that. Then you add some money, and there's the incentive to have a reoccurring Bigfoot activity, Bigfoot evidence. Hey, every time we go guiding for Bigfoot, there's Bigfoot activity. And all you have to do is sit at camp. That's the best part, is you don't even have to leave the camp. That, in my opinion, is a slippery slope, because you could go to a prime area, you could stay in camp, and something could happen. But to stay in camp and literally do nothing, and then every little sound becomes Bigfoot, or it becomes a talking chamber soundboard of what ifs and already stuff that we already do online and we do on phone calls and we do in texts and group chats, speculating and planning and telling stories. Of course, when you're at camp, you're going to do that. But the whole point is to get out there, get off our chairs, away from the computer, and get out there. And so if you have people who are manipulating that situation, it's bad. So, it's going to be pretty interesting. There's going to be a person who's going to be, I'll name him, the evidence. In my opinion, the video I just shown is pretty damning and stuff, especially, we'll see how the responses are. But apparently, DW Lee, apparently has some hoax allegations coming his way with some pretty strong evidence towards that, in my opinion, and multiple videos are going to come out, not by me, by some other researcher who is doing the diligence and actually has a strong opinion, and I think experience based behind it, that I think you guys will, of course, respect once that comes out. So yeah, and he gave me permission to kind of talk a little bit about it, but I'm not going to drop anything too much other than the hoaxer himself. So yeah, so be on the lookout for that. I guess you guys will know when it comes out. We'll talk about it more. Maybe we'll have that person on if they of course want to. Let me catch up on chat. I appreciate everyone who is here watching and, of course, participating in chat. Sandra Piper, always lovely to have you in chat and see you. I hope you are doing very well. Of course, Batmom, hope you're doing good. And then, of course, yeah, North Mid Keep, we will, anytime you want to, yes, we will get up to your neck of the woods one of these, actually this summer, whenever my guys can find the time off of work and stuff. Our work schedules are very conflicting right now, so we're not all able to get out at the same time, but I have been out. I'm gonna go out this weekend as much as possible, use the new thermal, and try to get some stuff, finally get the audio out now that hunting season is officially ended. I think I kind of disagree on some of this stuff, because I think there are some people who, through sheer experience and dedication and research of this subject, are technically an expert, by that standard and stuff, even though there's no standard field of stuff. If you spend 20 years of legitimately doing something and actually have the integrity, and maybe you've never had a real sighting, but a real sighting, or whatever. I mean, you become experienced. 20 years experience is more experience than someone who's never done anything, especially if they've never been in the woods. Survival craft, bushcraft, hunting skills, tracking skills. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into Bigfooting, and not just, armchair research and talking out of your ass, but actually going out there doing stuff, applying the knowledge. Because, it's awesome to have knowledge, but if you don't apply it, it really doesn't really do anything for you. It doesn't really mean anything other than the memorization and regurgitation of the information, which is good, but applying the information out there is really what we want. So in my opinion, I think to not say, I've spent this years of my life dedicated to doing something, to say that, I'm not a little bit of an expert into it, is cutting ourselves short. Actually, I think we're selling ourselves short. Like, we can't be the citizen scientist, we can't be an expert in this because, real science isn't into it and stuff. And I really disagree in that. I think, a lot of people with sheer experience and stuff, doesn't, just because they didn't go to mainstream Harvard or whatever, doesn't necessarily that they have invalid opinions or experience or expertise in something. You might not be an expert, you might have expertise a little bit, right? So I think we're selling some of us are selling that kind of short and stuff. I think a lot of people don't want to admit to it because it's some type of bad juju, some bad title. But at the same time, it's like, we're not all novice. We all just didn't start this yesterday. We never left the couch, never went in the woods type of stuff. But that's my opinion. I think that's a little bit. I think we're selling some of us. We're selling us a little short and stuff. It's not to brag and stuff, but at the same time, it's like, it should be taken a little bit more seriously than the stereotypical Bigfooter laugh jokes comedy that you see in media. It's very degrading. Anytime the media shows it's degrading and stuff. So, like, I think we need to hold our heads high and not be degraded by mainstream media or made jokes because people think we're whack jobs and stuff. I think we should hold our heads a little bit higher, because obviously the people who know, people who believe, people who trust those who have witnessed things, they're real. We're not crazy. Things are really out there. It's the masses that are oblivious to the reality of what's actually outside of their house after dark. On average, everyone's in bed at 10 o'clock watching TV. They're not outside. They're not roaming around. They're not standing guard. They're not doing any of the previous dozens of chores that you would have to do at nighttime to survive in a frontier environment, on a homestead, on a farm, basically throughout human history. So only in modern times can we relax, be in bed, not have to worry, not have to stand guard. And so it's this illusion of, well, there's nothing out there because we've conquered the world. We've only conquered the world enough for us to sit back and shelter ourselves inside our houses and not go out there and actually see what's roaming around anymore. We trust the TV, the experts. Remember, the experts on the TV will tell us and show us. They would never lie. They are never wrong. They were never misguided or paid for or bought off. Of course not. We should always believe the TV. But, let's not play dumb. The government knows Bigfoot's real. Scientists have to know. I mean, if the government doesn't have a body, doesn't know about Bigfoot, doesn't have any documentation, study, then they wouldn't be good at their jobs. In fact, they would be horrible at national defense, and that's their number one priority. Some people believe that the Miller documents are legitimate. Some people think that the reason why you can't find Dr. Miller as a real person and stuff is because that is a government alias, and that in some people's opinion that this was a former government who on his deathbed wrote all this, and some of the documents have came out. That's some people's opinion, but they categorize Bigfoot. They actually have they have a West Coast Bigfoot, they have East Coast Bigfoot, and I believe there was a Southern different type of species that they scientifically named in that stuff. And it's very interesting, the documentation that this wrote, right? A lot of people think it's not real because you can't find the dude, but if a guy was working for the government and had alias, you wouldn't be able to find their guy, right? That's some people's opinion, but the FBI has a little bit of documentation from the 70s. I believe the Army has a manual of Sasquatch in Washington and stuff. There are, of course, police encounters with Bigfoot where, you call the police because there's a freaking giant 7-foot tall dude or creature out there smacking your house, looking in your windows. In Michigan alone, there are documented with affidavit accounts of Sasquatch encounters. The 1960s Monroe Monster, there was an affidavit of course, the mother and the daughter driving where I believe they might have hit the Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot reached in to the window and grabbed the girl driver and shook her around, smacking her head onto the steering wheel. Police got involved. It made national news, was in the newspapers. Affidavits were wrote by the mother and daughter and stuff. Other witnesses came forward. So they know it's real. They keep it secret. There's obviously a reason. There's scientists who have studied this and stuff, but it's not made public, right? There's a reason for that. There's a reason, and there's a reason why there's no experts coming out on TV and telling us about it, right? They'll talk about the UFOs and UAPs in Congress, but they're not talking about Bigfoot in Congress. I find that very odd because, UFOs to some people's standards are even more crazier than a Bigfoot. So, oh, no, definitely not. I don't, if you're talking to me, I'm catching up on chat. No, I'm definitely not upset here and stuff. I just, I've just been hearing that, the expert debate for a while, the comments, and like Thomas Steenberg. I mean, he has, what, 40 years experience in the subject, dedication, documentation. I mean, he has to be an expert in this subject in some sort of way, even if he's not really filmed a Bigfoot or that sort of thing. I mean, you know, he's like a walking encyclopedia, or he has the encyclopedia at his house. I mean, that body of work is a work of some kind of expert, right? I mean, in any other field, the guy who spent and did all that would be considered an expert, even if he technically didn't have the like certifications from like a college or something. That's my opinion and stuff. And we can actually look at the definition and stuff. Maybe that would actually enlighten us a little bit, right? But no, I'm having a good time. I'm in a good mood, of course. So yeah, just bouncing things around, having a little fun. So that's it. Yeah, there's a lot of funny business when it comes to the Smithsonian archaeologist finding copper artifacts found in Michigan and Wisconsin that are very advanced for the cultures and stuff, to typically the official narratives and stuff. So there's a lot of mysteries out there. I think there's a lot of stuff that they're hiding. There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff. But I do got a couple videos that I do want to show. I got to load them up a little bit because I was running behind and stuff, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to actually jump on. But here we are. So I got a couple videos and stuff that we should be on guard for, because a couple different videos showing a different examples of a plethora of different stuff, all pertaining to the Bigfoot subject and or educational purposes, because that's why we show videos and we look at videos and we analyze videos, is for educational purposes, dedicated towards Bigfoot research and situational happenings. All right, so we got that one, this one. And some of these might be a little bit graphic to young viewers, but of course, this is not a channel for kids, and everyone should be adults and stuff. And if you are grossed out by this, well, some of this stuff is reality, and we are going to discuss how it applies to the Bigfoot world. So if YouTube gets all cranky or pissy ass and all that, everything is educational purposes. Everything can be teaching from the videos that we watch. Even the most graphic videos and stuff, accidents, stuff like that, have educational purposes of things that can happen when things go wrong, what happens if you speed, accidents, of course, and how to avoid them, bad situations when, criminals do criminal activity, of course, things and stuff, such things and stuff like that. All right, so here is, we got the more AI invasion, and it's looking gooder. I mean, it looks freaky, but this is completely 100% AI, right? The background, everything, right? It's getting smoother. It's getting better. It's able to flawlessly move around. Pretty good. Of course, it looks wonky, but it's only going to get better. And you have a little cryptid thing out there in the water or whatever, and it's going to get to the point where unless it's from a trusted source. It's uh, not Bozy Bigfoot, not what is it, Sasquatch University or one of the Cryptid University. There's a couple. I don't want to get them the wrong ones, but there's a couple who just post known fake Bigfoot videos or Bigfoot stuff, or those old 19 or old black and white photos of the Bigfoot next to the miner camps and all that. This is just going to be more and more, and it's going to get better and better and better. We got some different examples that I will pull up in a second. Where's right here? It's getting really lifelike and stuff. The evolution of AI videos from 2 years ago, I think, is when we first started showing it and talking about it, and it was just pictures, and now it's video and audio and stuff too, because these clips also have audio in them that is AI generated. So we are going to have a conflict of Bigfoot audio that is made by AI that we're going to have to try to figure out. And luckily there's programs to figure it out, to combat the AI, to figure out it's fake, because it is a real issue and stuff. You can manipulate media, manipulate the president to say something and stuff. People believe it. It's obviously a big problem. So that video is loading up. Looks like it's going to take a little longer for some reason. And then this one. So, as you heard, that it's all AI, that sounds that this creature is making. So, what if we had this audio attached to someone in the Bigfoot community and said, this is what I just got. I encountered a Bigfoot. It shook my tent. I about pissed myself. Like Discover Sasquatch, right? Except for he comes out and he has some audio and it's AI and it sounds like this, You would definitely have people who would 100% believe it. It's on the recorder. Look, it's huffing, it's puffing, it can do whatever, That is going to be the new game changer. I'm telling you guys right now, the AI videos and stuff, that's one thing, but the audio, if you thought the Sierra sounds were controversial, you thought my audio wood knocks are, dozens of wood knocks are unbelievable, or some of this other crazy audio that's out there. Jim Sherman's a researcher from Michigan. He has the Isabella County howls. If you guys have never heard that Bigfoot recording, Jim Sherman, Isabella, Michigan howls, Bigfoot calls, vocalizations, you'll find them. Pretty good stuff. Actually was the reason why the Finding Bigfoot came and went to that location on one of the episodes. They went to Michigan. I think it was the first episode that they came to Michigan in the lower peninsula. Great audio and stuff. We're going to have an issue with an explosion of audio coming from people out of nowhere. And I think, hopefully not. I know I could be wrong. Hopefully it might just be a select few, very few, but they're going to produce it in such, I think they're going to overproduce it. And we should be able to spot, the incredible evidence that they keep getting miraculously. So the audio part is, it's going to be a monster. If real determined people really wanted to hoax, that audio is going to be very hard to to deal with and stuff. And I actually have some audio that we might play a little bit and stuff of it's actually a video, but I took the audio off of it and stuff of a witness recording something outside of her house. Catch up. Yeah, so be on the look of that, of more crazy AI videos with audio and stuff. So that is going to be something cool, you know, having some cryptid running around in the forest that you can barely see with making some crazy vocalization. I mean, you know, it's going to fool a lot of people because I already see a lot of people and groups and some, you know, very smart, talented, experienced people in the community, but for some reason they can't see the AI photos and distinguish between real ones and fake ones as easy as other people can and stuff. So I see it's a problem, you know, because these people are I would say almost experts, certainly experts in the other professions that they are known for. Applying it to this field, you know, they are expert level people, uh, but the AI image and resolution is not something that they're able to spot and distinguish and stuff. So it is a concern. It's a very bad concern. It's only going to get worse. So, all right. Should do that one. Should do that one. Get this other one going. Let that load up. Hopefully that's the right video. I believe. Okay, yep, should be it. Should be the last AI one that we're going to show. No, that was not it. This should be it. And then we're going to get into, after this, we're going to get into some more, a little bit more gruesome videos and stuff. But they apply in our situations, as we'll discuss. All right, so here again is another one. It's freaky. It's freaky looking. 100% freaky looking. Audio was AI generated. Everything is AI generated. And, you know, they're getting the digits. I think in this video, you know, the hands are decent. You know, at first glance, if you show this to an old person with, you know, some eye issues, they probably think, what the heck is that creature in there? You know, what kind of cloning mechanism has gone wrong? But of course, closer inspection, you know, you realize, you know, this is totally AI and it's not quite there, but you can see the improvement in just a year of these AI videos and stuff. You know, first we had the morphing of people, and we showed them on here, the granny pulling an alligator or a crocodile out of a water, morphing into like a scooter and stuff like that. Whereas this is actually a lot better flowing of what the prompt is actually trying to produce. So it's going to get crazy, man. It's going to get pretty crazy. And of course, we have photos that we can take and make them live AI images. All right, so let's get on to some of the other some juicy stuff, I guess. Give me 1 second. We gotta download these off. Then I gotta upload them up here, so it should not take too long. All right, so which one should we do first? Do that one. Do this one. All right. So yeah, we're gonna get through these videos and we'll pretty much wrap it up, and then you guys can, of course, jump over to Steve Cole's show. I think it'd be pretty good one. But although, if you should really check out Bob Gimlin's uh, uh, newest video he put out. That is Bob Gimlin, the illustration narrator artist. Not the old Bob Gimlin. Bob Gimlin, the young Bob Gimlin guy, the storyteller. His video analysis of the New York baby Bigfoot video. Should check that out because Steve Coles is going to talk about it and review it and stuff. We also have that video on here, I believe. I believe it's still up, of our breakdown, slow motion zoom in of this baby Bigfoot that is in the tree. And speaking of trees, baby Bigfoots are swinging from trees, and I know people love to climb trees, but if you fall out of a tree, bad things can happen. If you're out in the woods, Bigfooting, preparing, going on an investigation, and utilizing ATVs or motorcycles or dirt bikes, side by sides, going fast down the trail, you always have to make sure that you go down that trail once or twice slowly, because it is no joke that tree limbs can actually pierce you very easily if you're speeding down the trail on a motorcycle, on an ATV, on a 4x4. And this is an example of what can happen. This guy, it says right there, he jumped out his window and fell into a tree branch, basically impaling himself. This can happen to us in the woods. If you start running in the middle of the woods after dark and you can't see anything, you can impale yourself. Now, it might not be as drastic as this, but you can impale your eyeball. You can poke your eyeball out. That is the most common injury. This is probably the most severe injury of impaling or poking your eye out, let's say. But if you ran into full speed into a tree branch that is broken and sticking up, you will impale soft tissue and your organs, and you will get stuck. And if there's no one there to help you, if there's no rescue, you're gonna die out there. Okay, it's very unlikely a Bigfoot's gonna come over there and help you. Okay, in that situation, very, very, very unlikely. If you trip and fall, and you fall onto a dead log with spikes sticking up, broken branches that have sharp edges, and you fall onto it, you're going to get pierced. If you don't think so, just go jump into a hedgerow and see if you get scratched up and a little poked. Okay, now why don't you ride a dirt bike full speed down a trail that you haven't been down, and then now you hit something that's sticking out. This is a very common injury, maybe not as severe as what we see here, but is something you have to be careful of, and is why you can't run after dark with no flashlight in the middle of the woods, because you're going to run into something. You're going to get smacked in the face. You're going to get your eyes poked out. You're going to get your ears ripped, or it's not a good situation. And this is graphic, but at the same time, this is reality, and things happen unexpectedly. And I just want to be careful, because we've utilized ATVs on the trails and at nighttime and stuff, and accidents happen. And of course, if you've never thought about what being impaled or any situation that could arise in the woods, well then you're not really thinking and studying. You're not being the expert out there, because you haven't thought about, oh shit, if I get stuck or impaled, or I get my eye taken out, or I break a leg, what am I going to do? How am I going to survive that situation? How am I going to get out of that situation? We can think about Bigfoot all day long. It's fun. But what we should think about is, what can happen out there? It might not ever happen. It might have a 1% chance of ever happening in your entire life. But that 1% chance, when it happens, becomes 1,000% reality, and one that you do not want to be in. So that is why we show these graphic things and explain the situation, that reality is harsh. Human skin is very weak, doesn't take a lot of pressure. If you accidentally fall, which is the most common thing that can happen in the woods, if you're not physically adept, sprain ankles, things like that. You spend a year on the couch, and then you go Bigfooting, and you walk miles and miles, and now you're going off trail. If you're not ready for it, you could trip and fall. The most common thing, you could land on your neck, land on your face, and it doesn't take much of a stud sticking out of a tree trunk on the ground, where you fall into a pine tree and stitches, you're done, you're out. The investigation is over. Now it becomes, we have to evacuate this person, get them to medical personnel as fast as possible. What are we going to do? I'm going to show you another example of common things that Bigfoot research could face, that that people, that this stuff happens. So it might be click the wrong button. It might be gruesome. It might make people a little distraught and stuff. But the reality is, if you don't talk about it, you don't think about the situation, what would happen if you found yourself in the situation? Well, now you have nothing to even think back to of, oh, I remember this. Oh, yeah, you plan the situation out. At least you have something to fall back onto. You can have some kind of plan that you can maybe be a little bit calmer in that situation. And that could be life and death. Being how calm and stuff, how rational you're being, how you can process and think things through because you've already done it, right? But if you've never done that, well, I mean, it's like trying to learn how to swim by being tossed out there. I mean, you better hope it's not the ocean. You better hope it's a calm, nice, easy time in the water. Otherwise, you're screwed. And I only show this because, I care. If people get hurt and stuff, I influence people to go out there in the woods. If someone gets hurt, because, I don't tell them, hey, be careful, be on guard, be smart, have common sense, work out a little bit, don't be on the couch all year and then jump out there and expect you to be a high performance machine. If you want to be a high performance machine out in the woods, you should probably work yourself up to that, right? You should know your limit on things. That is the biggest thing. And this example right here is knowing your limit, your physical, what you can handle, what you cannot handle, what you should not get yourself into. It's a big thing. A lot of people overestimate their abilities, because I've done that 10 years ago. Just because you did something 10 years ago doesn't mean you're going to do it flawlessly now. Another thing is, for adults and us grown-ups getting a little older and stuff, and our age is, when's the last time you ran? A little small burst even, running. Now all of a sudden, if something really did happen, you're going to be running in the woods off trail, or, if you have to run, you should probably make sure you still know how to, can handle it and all that, and all sorts of things, cold weather. What you can handle, your limits, what common sense, what can happen in situations that you put yourself in, because you might think you're an expert at something, or you might think you can handle something, but the reality is, it's all in your head until you take the plunge, and then reality starts to happen. And reality is unforgiving. Reality is, if you make a mistake, That's it. And what did happen here? This guy's doing a cold ice plunge. He's on a lake, hopefully on a lake. Definitely don't want to be doing this in a river, because what happens is you jump in, and the current takes you, and you come up, and you're not at the same spot. That's what usually happens. In this situation, I believe that this guy jumped in, and that freezing cold water made him go, and he died. And the little bit of bubbles that you see at the very end are the last little breath that are already out of him. I think as soon as he hit this water, as soon as he got in there, that cold water made him shiver and gasp, and he started floating away. You have a little bubble there, and then you have another little bubble, and there's probably more bubbles that are not at that square, but underneath the ice. And he's done. He's gone. That's it. He's done. Okay. Made a mistake. And not knowing your limits, not knowing common sense, if you're going to do a polar ice plunge, you don't jump in like that. You get in slowly. Take, for example, go in the shower, get in the corner, crank that sucker to cold, as cold as it will go, and then go in there. If you think you're freaking out over a little bit of cold water in your shower, welcome to the reality of if you fell through the ice because you wanted to cross the lake, or you wanted to cross the river, or you fell into the water, you fell into a puddle, or you broke through some ice. It was only a foot. Your ankles are wet now. Well, now you're going to start freezing and stuff. Are you ready for that? Can you make it back to your car before it gets too cold? You can start getting hypothermic. There's been times where I've walked over logs across frozen rivers. Dumb. There's been times I've walked through rivers that were frozen and stayed out there a couple more hours. Literally, my pants are frozen. And you get out there and keep going, bundled up, having multiple layers and stuff, knowing your limits, testing them, but not being so stupid of just jumping in to a river, but, crossing a river a little bit and seeing, okay, my pants are wet. How long is it going to take before I really just absolutely almost cannot even make it? And in my experience, testing my limits, testing myself in a safe manner, if my feet and stuff get cold, depending on my gear and how much layers I have on, I can last another 2 hours at minimum to get to the car before you start feeling the little prickles and pains of your feet, and after another hour or two, it really starts to hurt. Like, you should get warmed up now. So that video and these videos we show you is, yeah, I don't think a Bigfoot researcher is going to willingly jump into frozen water, but a Bigfoot researcher might fall into frozen water. He might not. He might get a little wet and stuff. And the biggest thing is, if you fall in frozen water, is that initial shock is going to make you want to gasp and freak out, and you cannot freak out because you'll drown like that. And that is the example of why we showed that video. So we're going to wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up and stuff. I'm going to hold off on this audio until probably, I guess, the next live show Saturday, or if I'm out in the field, I can't show the audio. I think I can preload it and have it, and I can still do it off my phone. I just haven't practiced off my phone. So I think that's what will happen. Weather depending, if it's too windy out. Another thing is, if it's windy, gusts of 30 plus miles an hour winds out there, and you're underneath trees, limbs can come off and pierce you, just like that video of that guy got impaled. That can happen when limbs come off of trees, and they will stick into you like that. They will go through you like that. That is 100% reality. And they don't call them widow makers for nothing. And that is probably one of the most common safety issues that Bigfoot researchers face, camping underneath, potential dangerous tree limbs and trees, or walking underneath dangerous trees and stuff in bad weather conditions and stuff. All sorts of things that might never, ever happen to you. But you should always be on guard and on the lookout of potential dangers. You don't want to take chances. Common sense, we're trying to minimize danger out here. I mean, we're trying to chase a 1,000-pound ape, Sasquatch, whatever. That's kind of dangerous in and of itself. I mean, you don't go chasing a grizzly bear, right? But we're chasing a Bigfoot that is pound per pound as strong as a grizzly bear. And there are counters and stories, reports that they've taken on and killed grizzly bears. So we go chasing after that. We should probably minimize everything else so we are safe about it. So without further ado, we're going to catch up in the last little bit of comments. I appreciate everyone who's taking the time to watch this and to comment and to just check out. Be on the lookout and stuff. I'm going to be using that thermal like crazy. We got audio coming. We got conferences dates are basically going to be in September. I'm going to be booking and getting everything ready so I can have the formal address and everything ready to go, ticket sales and all that. So I would expect that to be probably June and stuff. There are just a couple more places that I need to check out before I make the final decision. And then we are going to set up the conference and then where we're going to camp out and stuff. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for the new audio cut. It's going to come out on the next live show. I'll show a little bit of it and other stuff. But all right. So I hope everyone has a good rest of the night. May God bless each and every one of you. And I hope that, you go and try to become an expert in the field by studying rigorously, by being dedicated, by having integrity if you're wrong when you were fooled and stuff like that, not bending to the willpower of money, fame, all that junk. We need to be disciplined in our actions and what we do in the Bigfoot community. So if stuff really happens, we can be relied upon and stuff and not have some shady people trying to pass off stuff as fake. We really need a lot of people to be dedicated, and even all the people who don't go out there and stuff, we need you guys to be vigilant and to have your eyes and ears open about the con artists that are going to manipulate you. They're going to beg you for money to buy a new RV or house or truck or whatever the fuck it is. Excuse my language, but at the same time, enough's enough. This hoaxer, con artist, make my living off Bigfoot. It's not pushing the ball down the field. It's not helping research. It's not doing anything for evidence. And all the good people who have faith in these con artists, who are giving their money, their time, and their energy, are being used and abused, and even puts a sour taste in their mouth to the whole community and to other people who, could really use actual funds the right way and stuff like that, instead of let's go buy a new RV and never use it and stuff like that. So, it's all up to you guys too to be just as dedicated and watchful and on guard, because, if you guys in the community came together and put a stop to all this hoaxing, all the bullshit, if we had a standard, like, enough's enough, things would change. But, you speak with your money, you vote with your money, you watch the shows, you consume the things that are bad, and it's just going to make them incentive to produce more of it. So we have to kind of shun people, kind of put our minds together and think about some of these guys. There's too many red flags. you know? So be on the lookout for some new hoaxing videos that are going to come out. Multiple videos and stuff like that. I think it'd be pretty interesting. And check a look out at Squatch TV's show. Make sure you watch Bob Giblin's video if you have not watched it first, or go back and forth, all that. I am going to pass out. I have work. Good night. See you guys. And God bless each and every one of you guys.